project manager with us, and yes, he's an ESG project manager with us, and one of the youngest, and of course, one of the brightest as well. That's why we thought that, okay, this complex topic, someone like Pulkit should definitely handle, right? Before he begins, I'll give you a quick, just summary of who we are, what we do. We're an end-to-end sustainability company. There are two key pillars to our business. The first one being that we have a ESG data management platform. And we also do a fair bit of consulting, which includes CDP, CDP score improvement, EcoVadis score improvement, supply chain sustainability, ESG trainings, right? So the whole lot. And even if there are aspects of this that we don't do ourselves, we have amazing partners who support us, and we kind of try to act like a company's extended sustainability arm. Right. Today, we're working with customers and companies across the world, right? And of course, we won multiple awards through the course of our journey, right? So, without much further ado, I would like to invite Pulkit, right? Pulkit, over to you.
Thank you, Arushi, for this warm introduction. And I, Pulkit, welcome you all in this session of waste. The objectives that we are going to discuss in this webinar are related to the BRSR Principle 6. What is there in the BRSR Principle 6 waste indicators? We will also try to carve out what are the effective methods for the data calculation, what are the various categories of waste that has been mentioned by the SEBI in the BRSR, and what is the waste recovery process, what is the waste disposal, and besides this, we will also explore some key topics such as circular economy, your extended producer responsibility, purchasing power parity, and some more related topics. And at the last, we will try to understand how data auditing and assurance, what are the data auditing and assurance processes for BRSR waste data. So let's start our presentation. So we will try to understand that under BRSR and BRSR core and BRSR 3.0, what are the updates that have been there in the related to the waste. So under BRSR attribute, it requires disclosure of four things. First is your total waste generated, second, total waste recovered, total waste disposed, and waste intensity. Today we are going to discuss on all these four aspects. Firstly, just let's just give you a short snap of what is total waste generated. In this, what you have to take down. So in total waste generated, all the operational waste. Here, operational waste refers to all the waste that is generated in your plant site, basically. Let's say if you are making a product and the waste is being generated, whatever the waste is being generated in your company premises, that waste is taken in this BRSR report. Other than that, whatever the waste besides your operational boundary is not taken in the BRSR as of now. Then comes the total waste recovered. What amount of waste have you recovered? And what amount of after the waste recovery process? The third step is the waste disposed. After you have recovered whatever the waste that is left that can't be recovered, we send it for waste disposal, and we will try to get a glimpse key what is total waste disposed. And at last, we will try to understand what is the waste intensity in terms of your business output. So the primary approach for this data collection in this BRSR waste is going to be of metric tons or kilograms. Like if you have to calculate any kind of calculation that is going to be there in these attributes, it should be calculated in terms of either metric tons or kilograms. Now let's start with our first thing. Like let's say a company has generated a waste. So how what is the first process that they need to establish? So the first and foremost step in this waste is categorization of waste, or we can say it like segregation of waste. So before going on to these categories for waste formulation, I just want to give you a short glimpse of what is hazardous waste and what is non-hazardous waste. So hazardous waste is basically a dangerous waste that can harm the people, the animal, or the environment. And non-hazardous waste is a safe waste that doesn't pose that much risk as compared to that of your hazardous waste. In hazardous waste, we can consider like your radioactive waste is a hazardous waste, your battery waste, your biomedical waste. All these wastes are hazardous, which are very dangerous waste. And for non-hazardous waste, we can take examples such as your construction and demolition waste, plastic waste, which are not that much harmful to the environment, people, or any kind of. So we'll try to cover what are the categories for waste formulation that are mentioned in the BRSR by SEBI. So there are these categories. First one is a plastic waste. So plastic waste can include your plastic wrappers, your bags, your bottles, your packaging materials. E-waste, you can consider e-waste like all the old and broken stuff at your home or offices, like your electronics gadgets, such as your phone, if it has not been used for quite a while, or your laptops or your TV printers. All these are considered as an e-waste. Biomedical waste are primarily reported in the hospital sector, basically. In hospital sector, uh, all the waste that is generated while doing the operation of a patient, or treating a patient, all the syringes or other medical equipments that are being considered, that are being used and then thrown away, are considered as a biomedical waste. This in biomedical waste, solid and liquid both are there in this. After that, we will talk about construction and demolition waste. So, construction and demolition waste includes all your leftover bricks, your cement, your steel rods, and wood from building or tearing down these structures. Battery waste. Battery waste is all your dead batteries from your cars, either it is from laptops, phones. It can include your all the lithium-ion batteries that have not been used for quite a while, or a lead acid types battery comes under battery waste. Radioactive waste. So radioactive waste is basically the waste that is exposed to radiation. So consider like an hospital, there are some radiation therapy machines. Sometimes they generate some radiation waste, and it is considered as a radioactive waste. So uh, prior to the further ado, if I can quote an example of here, if you have watched a Chernobyl series, there, the Chernobyl town, it is a nuclear site where the radioactive waste harmed the all the surroundings of that area, such as its air and water, and all the soil has been bad at there. Other than this, there are some other hazardous waste which are mentioned by the Central Pollution Control Board. Besides from these, whatever the waste that is hazardous can be put down in this category, other hazardous waste. And last is other non-hazardous waste. Besides from these waste, whatever the non-hazardous waste is, you can put down in these category. So this is basically like, first of all, when you have generated the waste, you have to, the first step that you have to do is segregate the waste, divide the waste, that this is the plastic waste, this is the e-waste, or this is biomedical waste, that how much uh, amount of waste is there in plastic waste, e-waste, in metric tons or kilograms. So I think this is clear. Now we will do a uh, short session where we will there will be a pop-up menu which will be shown on screen. You can answer this question. The question is that which of these is not considered hazardous waste under BRSR? So the options are paint sludge, your biomedical waste, your food leftovers, or your battery waste. You have 10 seconds for giving this answer. Give this answer.
About 49 people have participated, 50%.
Okay, I think more will be participating. So
Yep, I'm gonna end the poll now.
yeah, sure. So most of the people have given the right answer. That is your food leftovers. The food leftovers is your is not considered as your hazardous waste. Basically, the food leftovers are non-hazardous waste because it can be through composting, it can be recycled or recovered. So now, further ado, we will try to focus on the second step in this. After segregating of your waste, the second step is the waste recovery. So waste recovery means that reusing or recycling the waste, whatever the waste that your company or the company is generating, recycling, reusing, or recovering through specific operations or through mechanisms that work uh, in your organization or any kind of organization. So that is waste recovery. Further ado, we will also try to know about how waste recovery intensity metric is being measured. In the further slide, we will discuss about that. But in a nutshell, if I have to talk about this, the first step is a segregation of waste. After segregating the waste, the second step is a waste recovery. If the waste has been segregated, like plastic waste, e-waste, is this tons, this amount of ton is a plastic waste, this amount of e-waste. What kind of waste can be recovered? So we recover that waste uh, through the recycling process or through recovering that process. Next is after the recovery process, you have done the recovery, but a certain set amount of waste can't be recovered at any cost. So what you do of that waste? So that waste is basically disposed of. So in waste disposal, it basically means the quantity of waste that a company sends for final disposal instead of recovering it through recycling or reuse. So this is the final step. After you have implemented your waste recovery, this is the final step where whatever the waste that can't be restored or recovered is disposed of to landfill sites or through incineration. It is disposed of. Before going, uh, before talking about the common disposable methods, I would like to focus on these three terms. First is a disposal. So disposal means your final and safe treatment of waste on land with proactive steps. There are certain steps that needs to be followed for proper disposal of the waste. A sanitary landfill. So a sanitary landfill is a properly designed site that protects the soil, water, and the air. So here consider a sanitary landfill site as there will be a site uh, where some of the land will be dug and a layering will be put on that layer. And after that, whatever the waste that is there, it will be dumped on that site, and preventive measures will be taken so that the water, air, and the soil around that region is does not basically उसको कोई harm ना हो. So that's how a sanitary landfill sites work. In India, there are many sanitary landfill sites, such as if I have to mention the major ones, there is a Okhla sanitary landfill site at Delhi, and there is one Mumbai Tharoi, I think so. These are the one of the major sanitary landfill sites in India. And a dump site is basically not safe and is not acceptable under proper waste disposal rules that are set by the CPCB, Central Pollution Control Board, and through various guidelines. You can't dump your waste at any location. So there will be some fines and penalties that you have to face later on. Now we'll talk about the common disposable methods that are there in the waste. So the first common disposable method is your incineration. So incineration is basically means controlled burning of waste at high temperature. So what happens is a certain amount of waste is brought into a company, brought into a plant or any kind of third party vendor if they are doing incineration. So what happens is when the waste is brought into that, the waste is burned at a very high temperature. And burning at a very high temperature, there is a process which helps in generating the electricity through waste. And one of the prime example is I can correlate is to Singapore. Currently, Singapore generates 5% of electricity through incineration processes through when the waste is being burned at a very high temperature. Singapore is doing currently generating around 5% of electricity. Landfilling is basically refers to depositing of waste in your sanitary landfills. We talked about the sanitary landfills, that there is a proper mechanism that needs to be set up for this depositing the waste. So landfilling is another option. Besides from this, the other methods can include your composting, your anaerobic digestion, your pyrolysis. These kind of things are the other methods, common disposable methods that are there. I think there are. I think most of the things are clear. We focused on the three aspects, like from the waste generation to the waste disposal mechanism. There are three steps. First is the segregation of waste. That is the most important thing. You have to segregate the waste, categorize the waste, that what is this waste, what is this waste, and further down. After segregating the waste, the second step is the waste recovery, that how much amount of waste can be recovered through through any kind of methods that are presently available all over the world. And after doing the waste recovery, the third method is a waste disposal, that if the waste uh, basically the waste can't be recovered, so we dispose of the waste. This is the third method, waste disposal method. Now there is a short question for you all. uh, whatever I discuss, this is a question related to that. You have to state true or false that whether the waste that is incinerated is considered recovered under BRSR. Is it true or false? You have 10 seconds to answer this question. Uh, I again repeat the question. Waste that is incinerated is considered recovered under BRSR. Is it true or is it false? So I can see a 50-50 ratio. That is, some are saying that it is a false, some are saying that it is true. So waste that is incinerated waste. So first we will try to understand what the question says. So waste that is incinerated is considered recovered under BRSR. No, because the incinerated waste is considered your disposal waste. So it is coming under the waste disposal. Like waste recovery process is basically recovering the waste. Like recovering it, मतलब उसका we have to make something out of that. But in incineration, we completely uh, मतलब उसको खत्म कर देते हैं, and then we try to generate something out of it. So the option will be false in this. Now let's talk about waste intensity. So, what is waste intensity? Waste intensity tells us how much waste a company creates compared to how much business it does in the reporting year, basically. So, uh, it has two methods of calculation. One is your per purchasing power parity adjusted revenue standard requirement, and another one is on the basis of quantity of production that you have in your year. So, how do we calculate this purchasing power parity adjusted revenue? So, the formula for this that has been mentioned by the BRSR is mentioned by SEBI in the BRSR is the waste intensity purchasing power parity adjusted is equal to total waste generated in tons or kg divided by the revenue purchasing power parity adjusted. So we can get the value of total waste generated from the previous things, like if a company has segregated its waste, it has calculated the total waste generated. So we can get this total waste generated value. But how do we get this revenue purchasing power parity adjusted value? So revenue purchasing power parity adjusted value represent a company's income converted to international dollars using purchasing power parity. So how do we do this? Like, so the formula for this is like, what are the revenues that you have done in an year? Let's say in Indian currency, you have done a revenue of 1 lakh rupees. So we put down the revenue in INR 1 lakh rupees. Now, PPP conversion factor, there's a PPP conversion factor that is mentioned that are there in world, which are given by World Bank, OECD, IMF, Eurostat. There you can convert there you can find the PPP conversion factor and put down the conversion factor and get the PPP adjusted revenue value. So currently in World Bank, it is around 20. So the revenue, if it is 1 lakh, we will get the 5,000 per purchasing power parity adjusted revenue. And then we will put this value in the waste intensity. And that's how we will get the waste intensity purchasing power parity adjusted value. So, in short, if I have to give a short snap of this, so basically, purchasing power parity, your country's your revenue is basically adjusted or converted to the international dollars, so that there is a leniency matlab, uh, all over the world. There is a same factor that is being used, so that's how it is done. Next is waste intensity in terms of your output or services. So this is a second aspect where we divide the total waste generated divided by the business output metric, like how much tons of production you have done in your reporting year. Let's say you have your products are like you have done a production of around 1 lakh. So in business output metric, you will mention that 1 lakh kg of amount I have generated in the reporting year, and whatever the total waste generated, it will be divided that by the business output metric, and you will receive the waste intensity. Next is the waste recovery intensity metric. So we talked about the waste intensity metric, which is the total waste generated divided by the business output metric. But here it is waste recovery intensity metric. So the waste recovery intensity metric shows that what percentage of waste was recycled or reused instead of dumped. We've talked about waste recovery process. In that, we talk how much amount of waste, how we recover or recycle or reuse the waste that has been generated in our organization. Now, there is a waste recovery intensity metric in which we show what percentage of waste was recycled. In this, the waste recovery can be done internally within the organization or through a third party vendor. So for this, it is currently not mandatory, but has been mentioned by the BRSR, where in case if internal waste recovery is done by the company itself, let's say there is a company A who does the waste recovery in its premises. So what are the documents that they need to attach? The document that they need to attach is the internal logs or the records of waste process or the various methodologies that they have used for data calculation, or what is a mechanism that they have set for their waste recovery process comes under the documentation part of the internal waste recovery. Talking about the third party waste recovery, if you are sending it to some third party vendor, let's say, so what you need to get from them. So the vendor will give you a certificate that this amount of kilograms or this amount of quantity you have recovered. That certificate you will attach in this waste recovery intensity metric to calculate this waste recovery intensity metric. So in a nutshell, if I have to explain, this is basically the percentage of waste that has been recycled or used instead of being dumped. So there is another question here. So this question explains like whatever I have discussed till now, that which formula is used to calculate waste intensity in BRSR. So the options are waste disposed divided by revenue, waste recovered divided by output or total waste generated by business output, or waste recovered by waste disposed. So you have 10 seconds to vote, give your opinion on this question. Here we're talking about specifically waste intensity, not waste recovery intensity metric. So I think 59% of people have given the right answer. That is, waste intensity is total waste generated divided by your business output. 22% have given the answer waste recovered divided by waste disposed. I want to just give us again a snapshot key what is this waste intensity in a short term. Basically, the amount of waste that has been generated divided by your business uh, output that has been done in the last reporting year is the waste intensity in BRSR that has been given by the SEBI. Next, we will talk about extended producer responsibility, that is your EPR. So EPR basically the producers in EPR, the producers are responsible for the entire life cycle of the products, from its making of the product to recycling of that product. So they are responsible ki, that they have to maintain a proper cycle of that product. Ki it doesn't go to a some waste site or dumping site. So they have to make sure that the waste is reused or recycled uh, at times. In India, the Central Pollution Control Board regulates the EPR. Currently, EPR is mandatory in India for very certain businesses, if you can see, like producers and importers of the plastic, e-waste, and tires are required to have an EPR certificate with them. If they don't uh, have this certificate, they might face penalties from Central Pollution Control Board. So this EPR certificate is mandatory only for a certain companies, not for all the companies, such as if it is your manufacturing company or if it is your chemical sector company, it is not applicable for all those companies. It is basically applicable for your a certain specified companies that are mentioned by the CPCP. Now let's talk about the circular economy. Circular economy in waste means moving away from a throwaway mindset to a reuse and recover approach. So what is a throwaway mindset approach? Throwaway mindset is a linear approach that we were following in the past years. Like we used to throw the waste in some dump yard and it doesn't get recycled. So that is a throwaway mindset approach, or basically you can term it as a linear approach in waste. Second is your reuse and recover approach, which is being seen in nowadays. That whatever waste that you are generating, it is being reused or recovered through various mechanism processes, and being uh, and it is helping in building a circular economy in waste. Now we'll talk about data management and internal controls for waste reporting. So what are the robust data collection internal processes that are crucial for accurate and auditable BRSR reporting? So the first and foremost thing that we talked about at the start of the session, that segregating the waste at the source. This is one of the most important thing that is mentioned by the CPCB, that segregating the waste is a very important aspect if you have to have a waste management at your company. So ensure that accurate categorization of waste is there, whether it is of e-waste, plastic waste, radioactive, and other hazardous or other non-hazardous waste. So proper segregation of waste should be done at your organization. Second is use logbooks or production data to track waste generation. So you can use the logbooks, or you can write it on a production. You can write it on an Excel sheet. You can use Excel sheets, or you can use some kind of software. So to enter the data basically. So you can use various tech platforms. So Oren has one of this e-swing tech platform where all the waste, like let's say the waste is generated on a monthly basis. You segregate the waste, like plastic waste. If you have to click the amount, put the amount, you can simply put the amount on the OSH portal or AN portal, and it will be automatically saved for all the time, and it is easy to use and user friendly. And you have to validate data with basic checks and past comparisons, like last year what waste has been generated as compared to this year, how the waste has been increased this much. All those questions need to be assessed, and assigning the clear roles for data collection and reporting, like who is collecting the data and who is segregating the data, should be the roles and responsibility should be clearly assigned to all the people so that there is no mismanagement in collecting the data for waste, basically. So if you have to give a nutshell of this, I can say that first is a segregation of waste, and after segregating the waste, you have to measure that how much amount of waste is generated. Let's say 100 kg of waste in plastic or 100 tons of waste in uh, e-waste, radioactive waste. You have to first categorize. Then all the quantity, all the measurement you have to put down either on an Excel sheet or an tech platform. And basically, for that, you have to assign a certain role to a person who clearly has an understanding of this, is how to check all these things and have past comparisons with the data, that what uh, what the data of previous year shows, what the data of this year shows, and how are we tackling down this. So this is the data management internal controls of waste reporting. Next, we talk about waste data audit and assurance. So audited waste data ensures trust and consistency, and for this, there are certain recognized standards which you can have in your organization, such as ISO 14001, Environmental Management System, and some of the provisions of CPCB guidelines, such as your that whatever the industry standards that are recommended by the SEBI, they can also work as a compliance, and ISA AE 3000 A 100 assurance standards are the recognized standards for waste data audit and assurance. If you want to do an internal audit trail, it must include whatever the methods that you have used, like for weighing the waste, what methods that you have used. Have you weighed it on a weighing machine or weigh bridge, or what are the manual logs? Or if you have given the waste to some other person, third party, so you have to mention the vendor reports also. And you have to also enlist the mention the names or the roles responsible for data entry and validation. Indicate platforms like ERP, spreadsheets, or ESG software. Attach the relevant proofs. So if the work is done in an operational boundary, let's say if all the waste is being calculated, is being done internally, you have to have the logbooks ready for that. Besides that, if you're giving it to some other party, you have to have the vendor receipts or the disposal certificates that we talked about earlier uh, from them, so that you can attach a proof of how much amount of waste that you have disposed, or waste that you have recovered or generated, that kind of thing. Now let's talk about example of basically waste. Uh, I have taken two examples here. One is of water bottle manufacturing company, and another one is an automobile industry. So water bottle manufacturing company, major waste percentage is from the plastic scraps, basically, almost like 65%. And from packaging materials, it's almost like 20%. And from other waste, it's 15 or 20%. So the plastic scraps that contains a large amount, 65%. So what is being done by the plastic manufacturing country, water bottle manufacturing company? So what they do is they recycled it through authorized recyclers. You can't just dump that plastic in some dump yard. You have to recycle the process. And in this case, the EPR mandate uh, is obligated to this water manufacturing company. They have to have an EPR certification by the CPCB, where they have to mention that we have a mechanism where whatever the plastic bottles that we are whatever the water bottles that we are generating, we are reusing that water bottle and reusing that plastic scrap, and reusing and recycling that product again and again, which is basically a circular economy. And another example is of an automobile industry. So automobile industry, you can consider an example of like the major waste percentage in automobile industries of scrap metals. Scrap metals include your 40 to 50% of waste. Oils and fluids almost like 20 and 25%. Paint, sludge, and plastics are around 15 to 20%. And the disposal methods that are there in automobile industries for scrap metals, they are recycled through smelting. For used oils, they are refined or incinerated. Incinerated, basically, they are burned at a very high temperature to generate something else like electricity that we talked about earlier. Paint sludge, co-processed in cement limbs. And this automobile industry, if I have to take an example of automobile industry, let's say this is a company A, so they are producing the waste. So what waste is being considered in this reporting? Like if we have to mention the like how much amount of waste is generated. So we will consider whatever the waste that is generated in the operational boundaries of that company is will be mentioned in the BRSR report specifically. Outside the operational boundaries, there will no other waste can be considered in that thing. Operational waste management required under ISO 14001 and GRI 306 for ESG reporting. So I think that's all. And if I have to give a nutshell of this session, I can describe that first, if you have to do a waste reporting, so first thing, whenever the waste is being generated, we segregate the waste. Second step is your waste recovery. Whatever the waste that can be recovered through various mechanism processes that are available all around the world, you can perform those waste recovery mechanism process on your own or from some third party vendor. After doing the waste recovery, the third aspect is your waste disposal. Whatever the waste that can't be recovered is disposed of through incineration, through landfilling, or through composting, anaerobic diffusion, or some other things, whatever the disposable methods are there. So this is a three-layered process which we have to mention in our BRSR report. Besides from this, we have to also mention the waste intensity. So waste intensity is basically whatever the waste that you have generated in your reporting year divided by your whatever the business that you have done. It can be the business output metric. It can be done in two aspects. One is your purchasing power parity adjusted, and another one is your what amount of production you have done in your reporting cycle or in your following year. So this is a waste intensity. And further, we talked about that there is a need of a circular economy in the coming times. And circular economy is basically recycling or reusing the waste. And EPRs we talked about. EPR is an extended producer responsibility. Extended producer responsibility is a certificate that is given by the Central Pollution Control Board, where the producers have to make sure that whatever the product that has been generated by them is recycled or reused in their company premises. And I think that's all we have for this session.
Perfect, perfect.
Now we'll,
Thank you so much, Pulkit. This was amazing. It's a very hard topic, and you made it super, super easy for us. Thank you so much, Pulkit. I think now the floor is open for questions. We've
yeah,
tried to
sure.
resolve all the existing questions. Does anyone else have any question? I see one in the chat by Mr. Sachin Patil.
Okay.
Sachin, you're asking that how to calculate the air monitoring in metric ton. Could you be a little bit more specific that what do you mean by air monitoring? Do you mean air emissions, GHG emissions, etc.? Could you just be a little more specific? Yeah, air emissions, right? So the
Right.
question is how to calculate air emissions in metric ton. We actually have Abhiroop with us as well. He'll be taking this question.
Hello. Hi. So for calculating your carbon emissions, whatever process that you follow, the similar aspect or similar process has to be followed for your air emissions also. So, like if I have to take an example and tell you that how to calculate it, let's say you want to calculate the emissions of one particular DG set where you are calculating your air emissions, right? So, like you will definitely have a stack emission report for that particular DG set or any stack that we are referring to, right? It can be done on a monthly basis, it can be on a quarterly basis, whatever frequency that you follow. You will definitely see the stack emission reports where it is mentioned that like per second or per hour of your testing, what is the amount of emission that you have in terms of NOx, SOx, or anything, particulate matter in terms of 2.5 or PM10, right? So that amount is basically saying how much quantity of air emissions of that particular nature is getting emitted per hour of your operation of that DG set, right? Now, to calculate the volume of your emission, you have to basically multiply this particular number with the running hours of your DG so that you get a volumetric number or like basically a ton or kg, whatever this amount would be based on the number of hours of operations of that stack or the DG set that we are talking about here. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, we're kind of sitting together. So, yeah, amazing. The next question is by Satish Panchal. How to check and verify the TREM card, TREM card from the industry and SPCB? Pulkit, would you have the answer to that? I think it's a little too specific. Satish, is it okay if we kind of get back to you on this one? It's an extremely
Yeah.
specific one, right? We've not kind of dealt with this right now, but I'm sure if we think about it, we can get back to you.
Yes, yes, sure.
Rasadul will note this down, and Satish will write back to you.
So Satish is replying with answer like tram card is a system for the waste disposal.
Yes, Satish, same. We'll just get back to you after this webinar on this question.
Okay.
Does anyone have any other questions?
Um,
Yeah, I have Rajesh has a question, and I'll see if do we want to pull in Pulkit or Abhirut for this. So the question is for the DG set, instead of tracking the hours or minutes in the whole day, shouldn't we track the diesel consumed? Is it more easy way of tracking, or there are problems with this method? Um, Pulkit, do you want to take it? I think Abhirup's going to take it. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so the question you are asking is about mainly, I believe the point of discussion is we are tracking the air emissions here, right? Like because it is not related to waste. In that case, when you are saying that how much diesel has consumed, that is not like you can definitely have this as per the diesel consumption if you know the output of per liter of diesel, how much your air emissions are. But when you look at any stack emission report, it will be mainly either done for a minute or maybe an hour. If you have to think of it in your personal life also, when you go for your PUC certificate, they run it for certain time period and you can see that the emission of your fuel or of your vehicle for that particular time period. So that is the reason it is obviously like it is always calculated in the running hours or minutes, rather than the like amount of fuel getting consumed over there. But yeah, like if you have your own tracking mechanism or maybe like a real time mechanism to calculate how much emission has happened from there, in that case, definitely you feel free to kind of make the changes. There is no specific guideline in BRSR or by SEBI which mandates you to kind of do this calculation. It is just that because this data has to be verified or like kind of audited, in that case, you need some kind of record. If your vendor or the testing vendor is giving you a record as per the liter of fuel that you are consuming, in that case, you can definitely do.
There's another question here
Yeah.
that few of the large industries dispose food waste through biogas. So how to calculate that waste basically? So the waste that has been disposed of through biogas, we can like whatever the waste that is being generated, we can matlab, prior to that ki first we have to uh, food waste we have to calculate ki how much amount of waste is there, and then we will send it to the biogas. That's how we can calculate. I think if Abhirup can correct me or
Yeah,
else
I'll just add on here. I am assuming the question is about how would you account for the waste that is generated, like while you are converting that into biogas, right? So if the question is to kind of how to do the waste accounting, in that case, anyway, the food waste is getting measured, right? In your biogas plant, you will know that how much input material you have given for that biogas chamber or maybe like the bag that we are talking about, right? So that waste is basically the amount or the quantity that you are going to put in other non-hazardous waste category, and there you can put it as a like a food waste or maybe whatever biodegradable waste that you are talking about. Now, because that is getting converted into biogas, it will be headed under reuse or other recovery method. In that, you can mention that it is converted into biogas because the waste is already being generated. You are just reusing or repurposing the waste there. So that is how the calculation should look like if you have a food waste that is getting converted into biogas.
okay, that's great. There is another question by Astika Yadav that can you please mention some guidelines for any multi-specialty hospitals, waste management for BRSR or others? Like we know some guidelines for biomedical waste, MSW rules, but for BRSR, what should be the specific one?
So, Astika, like the rules and regulations for waste management are basically prescribed by the CPCB norms and even like wherever you have your rules and regulations. So, SEBI is saying that for your particular sector and particular industry, if you don't have any guidelines by CPCB, in that case, you need to follow your particular sector or industry's guidelines. And if you have both the guidelines like related there, in that case, just extend that. So there is no separate guideline for BRSR. BRSR is just giving you a like built-in structure or maybe a format where you can report the activities, and they are mainly aligning it with the CPCB norms only. So in that way, you have the flexibility to kind of do it. But like again, waste-wise, whatever categories that are mentioned in BRSR, those are only indicative categories. Everything else you need to tag it to other hazardous or other non-hazardous categories of waste. There is an option saying that if you have, let's say, other non-hazardous waste, like we talked about the food waste. Similarly, if you have paper waste, all of these are non-hazardous categories, right? So in the other non-hazardous category, you have to write down that I have paper waste of these many tons or these many kgs, which gets like either to the goes to the landfill or maybe recovered or reused. Similarly, let's say food waste, these many tons that has been the other recovery method where I'm converting into biogas. So everything is structured. The like few lines or the data entry points that you see, plastic waste or e-waste and battery waste and construction waste, those are only indicative categories as per BRSR. I see one more question by Parul. How we are going to calculate the waste recycled and repurposed? Like, suppose wet waste is being recycled and paper waste is also being recycled plus repurposed. So, how we are going to calculate that in the entire waste generation? So, Parul, that is what even my colleague Pulkit mentioned, right? The first thing is segregation. The moment you generate a waste, you can't tag it as a wet waste or a dry waste completely. You need to segregate it somewhere. Once you have segregated, then each and every waste has to be treated in certain manner. Because the main problem with waste management and circularity is the exact same thing that when we mix together two different elements, the circularity practices goes for a toss. You can't process plastic the same way as a paper versus, let's say, a tin, or let's say, like this classic example is your Tetra Pak, right? Because multiple layers and the layers are also different. So that's why like the segregation is the key here. And once you segregate, then you can do the repurposing or recycling process in a much better or much engaged way. Um, the other way, from an assumption viewpoint, can be that you just tag the entire waste to be a wet waste, or maybe tag it as other non-hazardous waste, where you can say that it's an office waste, which gets repurposed or recycled by a vendor. Here, the key for BRSR reporting would be that you need to have the quantity and uh, recyclers certificate with you, which says that we have recycled or repurposed this a particular quantity of waste that we have taken from your particular office, location, whatever is named. Next question is that in the textile industry, the wastewater is a major concern. And to treat one ZLD system is there, what will be the case of waste generated and reported in BRSR? Um, Swapnil, can you elaborate a bit here? Because I do see, like, is this question a concern related to waste or water? I'm unable to understand this. See, like if I understand it correctly, you are talking about wastewater that is of a concern, and ZLD is there to kind of repurpose or reuse that water, right? Now, shall I account this water to be as waste generated or not? If that is your question, in that case, the answer is no. Because when we're talking about water, water is a separate thing altogether. This water can be treated, and like the ETP facility can make it reusable. Even ZLD processes are exactly meant for it. Otherwise, this water is going to account in your water consumption question rather than in waste. So you will like, because every data point has a different question and different mechanism. As we had this webinar for water also, in this particular case for textile industry, the wastewater is also going to mentioned in water consumption and discharge mechanism, but it will not be accounted in waste.
There is another question that I can see, that if waste is generated in one financial year but sent to a recycler in the following financial year, how should the disposal be recorded in the reporting?
So for this, it is similar to how you are going to account for your financial parameters, right? Like if you have any loans that has been taken by the company in last financial year, and you want to show the same loan being carried forward in next financial year, right? So you will anyway do that adjustment in the financial year of the next financial year, right? Like so, either you can put down a note that in this time period of 12 months, we have generated, let's say, only 100 kgs of waste, but the recovery or recycling shows 120 because 20 kgs are carried forward from last year. You can put a note over there, or else you can just add it like 120 is the total generation, and basically 120 is also getting recycled. Both the options are true, but it is always advised to kind of put the actual number. So, and also put a note saying that what has actually happened. So the more clarity that you give, that is the best thing. Yes. The next question about should sludge generated from STP be classified under waste category? The question answer is yes. It has to be classified in waste. Any other questions?
Perfect. I think we are good. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you so much, Pulkit. Thank you so much, Abhiroop, as well. Also, thank you, Rasul, for kind of handling everything in the back end. This was lovely. Hope all of you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend ahead and a wonderful Friday night. Next week, next Friday, we're doing another session. I think we're going to take a pause from environment parameters and do one on HR. And the week after, I know we had only planned for 4 sessions so far, but we got 100% people telling us that Olivia would like to do that you'd like to do another session with Olivia on the topic of scope 3. So we'll also schedule that. Rasul will schedule that, and you'll hear about it from us. But thank you so much again, and yes, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Bye bye.
Thank you so much for everyone.